I'm watching the rise. And I wouldn't say I'm shocked cause I'm hardly surprised. This one's for the ride. This one's for who knew I'd make it, just needed some time. This one's for my wife. Could have left 1,000 times just so.
Hey, what's up, everyone? My name is Randy Kaye, and I'm the host of the Caught Up podcast. Today, we have Coach Lauren Watts. She first made her mark as a standout pitcher in the Northeast 10 at Adelphi University, and now she's channeling that same energy and passion into developing the next generation of pitchers, first at Southern Utah, and now as the pitching coach at Southern Illinois. Before stepping into the college game, Coach Watts built a strong reputation at the high school level, leading programs at Pinson Valley and Prattville to multiple championships and deep postseason runs. Lauren, it's always great to see you. Thanks for taking the time to catch up.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. How are you doing? How are things?
It's good. You know, we're in April. We've survived this far. We're in the middle of conference play. Just grinding it out.
Yeah, speaking of conference play, it looks like you guys are it looks like things started off a little tough, but conference play, you guys seem to reel it back in and things are looking good. Before we get into all that, what's the weather like up there? Is there still snow?
No snow. Yesterday it was 80 degrees and we had tornadoes last night, but it's been nice. We've gotten, the month of January was rough. February was a little rough, but we've been outside since March and we've been 55 to 80 now. So. And
you're originally from Alabama, is that right?
Right.
So I was curious, like I'm an idiot, so I don't really know anything. So like, what's the weather difference? Like, is it the same? Because it gets pretty cold down in Alabama, doesn't it?
It gets a little bit colder here than home. That's what, like, they all make fun of me because I was like freezing when we first got outside, and they're like, "You lived in Utah for 5 years," and I'm like, "Not the same."
Oh, it's not?
I don't know, the dry cold versus like a humid cold. They're two different colds to me, but yeah, it's still like. In August, we were dying here. Like first week of practice, it was like 90 plus with 100% humidity. But yeah, so it's a lot the same.
Back in the ASA days with my oldest daughter, I went to Owensboro, Kentucky, and oh my God, in I think it was July, August time, and that was brutal. Johnson City, Tennessee, as well. Like those places were a little different than Arizona. Like, but yeah, that dry heat versus humidity, or that dry cold versus a little bit more moisture. Which one's colder though? Like for you guys?
Oh, I think the humid's much colder. Like it'll say it's like 40 degrees here, and to me, it feels like it's like 20.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
But less wind here, so that's nice. It's not as windy.
Yeah.
We don't get like a random snowstorm blow in, April 2nd, and I'm dealing with 3 inches of snow, so that's nice.
Ouch. And so what's it like when you have tornadoes out there? Like is it truly like coming your way, or do you guys have to like any precaution?
Yeah, well, we got one like last night, and Jen sends out the text, "Okay, everybody, like it's time, go get in," So you just go like hunker down for 15, 20 minutes until it passes. But I mean, luckily that part doesn't freak me out, I guess, growing up in Alabama. So I'm used to that part, but it's one of those things that you deal with tornado season for a few weeks and then you're done with it.
Yeah. Huh. Is there like a shelter or something you guys got to run to or get underground?
They have like shelter here on campus. We'll go to like the basketball arena. And then if we're home, you just go find the middle of your house with no windows or a basement.
Got it. I was talking to you a little bit before we started. And I told you, like, you came across social media a few times to me, and you're always, it's always great to see you out there on the recruiting trail and get to kind of chat with you a little bit. And then I noticed like you know a lot of people. Like I saw you at NFCA. Is it Laura? How do you say her last name? Heberling, yes. And so like I noticed I see you with her and Paige, and like tell me a little bit about the pitching coach circle, and who you're close with, and just give me a little insight into that.
Yeah. So I guess when we were all like, because originally, Laura was at Utah State as a pitching coach. You have Paige that was at the U, and then I was at Southern Utah, and we honestly just showed up at a camp and to work. and we all just kind of like clicked. And then, when your pitching coaches pitching and calling pitches at elevation, and the plan is there is no plan because you miss a pitch and it finds a barrel, and then a missed contact is a home run. So we all just kind of clicked. And then ever since then, they've kind of became like my girl gang. I mean, we just all kind of, I don't know, it was just one of those things where you click with people. And then, you got Jo Coons, who's now at Abilene Christian, that she always laughs and says she's the one defensive coach, now head coach, but that gets to hang out with all the pitching coaches. And so it's just, I've got like that really good core group of friends that just, undeniably just support each other through everything. And it's just a really good group to have. And it was just honestly just a weird thing that we all just worked at camp, and that's how you meet everybody.
It sounds to me like you guys can all kind of rally around the thought of the pressure. There's already enough pressure calling pitches or trying to get really good hitters out. And then when you, like you said, when you mix in elevation and you go, crap, like you said, mistakes are home runs and mishits by hitters are home runs. And not to mention, is that true? Like the air thickness or the elevation affects like movement as well?
Well, that's it's just a complete game changer. You don't realize it until you get out of elevation and you're like, oh, wow. I think it was like our first few weeks here in the fall when we were playing. I think every ball that got hit to the outfield, I was like, oh God, oh God. And Jen was like, can you calm down? That's a weak fly ball. And I was like, I think I have PTSD from being at elevation. It's one of those things like when you're recruiting and the kid sends you your Colorado stats and she's like, I hit 17 bombs, like, slugging percentage was over 1,000. I'm like, okay, you're also not, that was my reality. That's what we were living through. So,
right. It's kind of funny. Like, right now they just had the big, national power pool selection, thing for TCS. And I'm going like, as you're saying this, I'm going, we're also excited to go there to go get stats and play in front of a lot of coaches where it's really kind of like, they don't even take them seriously, whether it's pitching or hitting, but I guess great weather and getting, out of your element and around another bunch of other coaches is a good thing. But and yeah, I was talking to we had a Zoom call the other day. Brian Colsey?
Mm-hmm.
So Brian, I've known Brian for a long time. He recruited my daughter years ago, my oldest daughter, and I had him come on and do a recruiting Zoom call for my organization. And he even said, like, to your very point, like, when you go to Colorado, pitchers, like, don't stress out. Like, you're gonna have balls hit over the fence. We understand you're in Colorado. We're pretty experienced at this, and so like don't let that get you down, and don't let it think that you just ruin your chances with a coach. But yeah, no, all good stuff. And so I didn't know Laura was at Utah State. How long was she there?
She was at Utah State. I don't want to be wrong. I think she was there 5 years, and then went from there to Maryland for a year, and then Maryland to Kansas. So. It's nice. We're both back in the Midwest. We're like a car ride away from each other now. So
I saw her in the Maryland gear on your social media. So, and I didn't really know her. Obviously at Utah State, I didn't even know she was there. But she became I got to know her a little bit over the last year and a half. She really did a good job of following some of our kids, and we
were after the same
kids.
Oh,
right. I remember that. So yeah, but all good. So who else do you that I didn't mention that who do you hang with? Who do you lean on for feedback or advice, or who else out there as far as coaches kind of helps shape who you are or is your go-to?
Yeah. I mean, Paige Parker is always a great sounding board. Like I'll just send her a text. Do you have a second? I just need to vent. And she's great. And I talk to Jo Coons all the time, like finally our off days, like, cause you get in season and you don't get to talk to your friends, right? You're just busy. Like you get done, you have an off day, but the off day is prepping for the next opponent, throw in a midweek. So finally, like we just said, our off days collided because like weather got in the way. So we were off Sunday because we played a double on Saturday, and Joe and I just finally got to catch up on like what's going on. And like I look down, I'm like, wow, we've been on the phone for 2.5 hours. So
wow.
Just because she's taken over a program and trying to turn it around, and that's not for the faint of heart.
Abilene Christian, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So and she's out there playing the Texas A&Ms. They hosted Texas Tech last night, like. So, it's just one of those things. You got to have a village. Otherwise, like, it gets hard, and you got to have people to stick through to hear you through the hard and just like, hear me out. Am I crazy or are we okay? You just need like a little validation.
Have you guys ever thought about, like, obviously you would exclude anything that could be looked at as negative, but have you ever thought about like recording your calls? Because I guarantee you there were some really good coaching nuggets in there.
Yeah. I mean, actually, well, Cindy Bristow, now that she close to be semi-retired, but probably works more now than ever. She does a great job of like rallying a lot of like younger coaches. And once a month, we just get on like a big Zoom call and everybody's just like, because I feel like our sport is one that does a really great job of sharing information. A lot of sports don't do that, and I didn't realize that. But like we'll get on once a month and have a Zoom call, and there'll be, 15 coaches on there, and we're all just like, kind of, what is your program going through? How are you making it through? What are some things that you see that are helping right now? Because I feel like the technology every week it's like something new. So just trying to stay ahead of the game as much as we can. And so Cindy does a great job with that. And I owe her so much too.
And who is that? Cindy who?
Cindy Bristow. She was at UCR for a while, Hall of Famer, pitching coach.
Cool. I'm going to look that up. I'm always like, I'm kind of been, I used to have a guy with me named Victor. He was the one that has worked with a lot of my pitchers over the last 5 or 6 years. And you may have spoken to him before, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, super good dude. Knows the ins and outs of pitching. Spends a lot of time doing it. Actually educated himself a bunch through a lot of NFCA stuff and different courses. But I've kind of taken over that role of like pitch calling and pitch coach, and not necessarily pitching coach, but like at least handling the staff and obviously always making those decisions, but actually more so. Kind of taking that responsibility, but like I'm trying to figure out like how to get better, how to make better decisions for my pitchers, how to like from the mental aspect to like, because I can look at one person says your glove hand should be driving to the pitcher, or knuckles to the catcher. I mean, and then another catch, I send a video to someone I know, and the kid's arms flying off to first base. And they're like, well, look at so-and-so, they did that, so it's not for everybody. Like, where do you draw the line when it comes to that kind of stuff? Like, where do you go? It just doesn't matter. Like, they do what they do.
Right. I think, honestly, Laura and Joe have gotten me, and even Paige, like, we really got deep into, like, the motor preferences side of things. I think for so long, we've always been like, this is the way you've got to do it. This is the way every girl needs to throw. This is every way it needs to hit. And then you dive into like the motor preferences side, and you're like, and you see that her motor preferences don't even align with what you're trying to teach her. So I'm trying to teach a kid to do this, and she just isn't getting it, but it's because like she physically can't do it. Like she physically can't get there to do it. So I think leaning into that side, it's given us a better perspective of, us and how do we adapt what we want the kid to do to what their motor preference is. A kid that's going to be heavy on their toes all the time is like a terrestrial kid. I'm going to have a really hard time getting her to throw a really good up ball. So I'm sitting here asking a kid to throw an up ball, and then you put it on Rapsodo and it's got down spin on it.
Yeah.
So it's, and you're like, yeah. So it's like, I'm physically asking her to do something that she can't do.
And let me ask you this, is that something that she can't do? Can you train her to do that? Can somebody be,
Yeah, you can, you just got to, but now like, I know how she is, but now I got to adapt it to how can I make it happen? Because it may not happen the traditional way that we've always been teaching it.
Yeah. Okay. And what type of pitcher were you? What kind of training did you have? Who did you work with? And because I looked you up a little bit. It looks like you had obviously some success in college, and it looks like you had a lot of success in high school as well. So like the whole time it seemed like, you were one of those pitchers that, that had success. What was your secret to training, or how did you become who you are?
Yeah, honestly, she's still like, I probably should have listed her with the girl gang, but she's like, since I was 13, I guess, Stephanie Van Brakel Pro Throw. I attended Alabama softball camp. She was a sophomore, I think, in college, and we were built a lot alike. I was a heavy down ball, threw a lot down. At that time, it was like the time of the rise ball, and everybody was throwing up and getting, 17, 18 strikeouts a game. And my dad wanted me to be that up ball kid, and it just would not work. Right. Like I would try to throw it and it wouldn't work. So then I go to Alabama camp, and like Steph and Van Studeman, she was there at the time, pull me aside, and they're like, I think you're a down ball kid. Like, just try this. And I was like, oh, it was like eye opening. Like, oh, like at 14 years old and then so from then on out, I started taking pitching lessons with Steph. And then here we are 20 years later, and, I'm still talking to her every day about the game and life. And so that's the running joke, is that like my parents would pay her to give me lessons to like let me leave crying, because she would make me like run or something. It was a traumatic time at 14, because she's tough as nails, like still to this day, and like an uber competitor. So I owe her a lot, because she really like helped mold me into like the pitcher that I became, and then now the coach that I am. And so I owe her a lot.
When you talk about her being tough, like, I mean, you said you left crying, but I mean, I know that really wasn't like in a bad way.
No, I mean, it was great. Like she does a great job of like just making you mentally tougher. And then I learned that at an early age, like being a pitcher's hard. There's only a circle around one human being on the field, and you can't give in to the hard. You got to push through it. And I think that learning that the earlier was the better. And then just owning it and taking accountability. I remember being in the car ride home from games, and my dad was always hard on me, and my mom would always be like, oh, it's okay. And then I was finally like, no, it's not okay. Like I went in and I walked 3. I can't do that. Like, so I think learning that accountability at a young age really helped me. And like Steph's the one that kind of like implemented that early.
Yeah. She set expectations and helped you hold yourself to it. Let me ask you this, like in a game setting, right? We all hear the guy or the dad or whoever throw strikes or whatever they say, no shit, right? Like we get it.
Yeah, like I'm not trying to throw balls here.
Right. But so let me ask you this: what kind of pitching coach or coach would Steph be in the moment, in the game? Would it be the same as the lesson, or would it be different?
I think it's almost like your best pitch is better than her as a hitter. And just be competitive. Every pitch has got to be a competitive pitch. If we're throwing 2 balls off, it's got to be a competitive 2 balls off. It can't be a ball out of your hand. So I think that's her, like everything's got to be competitive. We can't take the foot off the gas.
And what if it's not? Like, what if you're struggling? Like, and the option's not to take you out. Like, how do you see her trying to get you over the hump?
I think it just goes back to like push through, like you've got to find a way. You look around, it's only you've got to find a way. Like if my A stuff's not working, I got to cling to my B stuff and change speeds a little bit and get through it.
Have you ever been in that situation where you're like, you look over at coach, you're like, I'm not feeling it. And you're kind of looking like, come get me. And they're like, you're like, no, this is time. Like we need you to power through. How many times have you been in that situation?
Yeah, I think my senior year of college, that was, that feels like forever ago now that I'm old. But I just know my senior year of college was like, it was one of those days I looked over and I'm like, hey, anybody gonna come get me? Like I just walked 2 in a row and gave up a double off the wall. Like, and it's just, everybody's like, no, dog, it's you. Go get it.
You're the one with the SR period next to your name. Like,
right. Like go get it.
Yeah.
So that's, it's one of those things you just dig in and you find a way, and you hope that, the coaches that you've had have prepared you for the moment. Right. And like, as a competitor, you want that moment. And so you bow your back and you get it done. It's funny. One of our kids, it was I can't remember now, 2 weeks ago, you see her like give the look over like, Hey, and you coming to get me? And I mean, we still had like a 6-run lead, and she just kept looking over, and I finally called time. I'm like, no, you've got yourself into it. You're going to get yourself out of it. Because I feel like so many times we go in and we rescue them early. So, and I think that's also like the hardest part about, making a pitching change, right? Like, when do I make it? When do I make it at the perfect time? And the goal is to, get them out before they get themselves into too much trouble. But then what's the fine line of making them work through it, but also not letting them implode? I
did that this fall. I had pretty much a new pitching staff in the fall, and my mindset was I got to see what I have for summer. And I'm going to tell you right now, I let people walk in or get themselves into trouble, give up a hit, we score 2 runs, like way more than I ever did. And I think the downside of that was now looking at things like national power pull and invites to PGF. I'll be honest, I think it hurt me, but I was looking more like down the line, like we're going to be in those things. But I believe in what I have, and I think I have some real talent. I just got to let them work through it because it was a new thing, and because for whatever reason. But like, I think it hurt me. But yeah, I just I'm with you. Like, I would probably say in the fall I would be accused of like letting people go too long and waiting too long. But
yeah, but that's like the beauty and the curse of it, right? Like you're either a hero or a zero. Like you either, wow, you really did a great job letting her get through that, or I can't believe you let her do that.
Oh my God. So many times it's funny when you say about hitting somebody or walking somebody, you're going to come get me. My high school pitcher, probably like a month ago, she had a tough day, and she ended up hitting like 2 batters in a row. And she gave me that look, like, and we have another kid that I like to go through one time through because she's really off speed. And this kid looks at me, and I went out there kind of joking with her, and I said, hey, that's cool. Like, I should have known after the first hit, and you looked at me. I said, that's your sign. Well, I'll know from now on that's your sign. When you want out, or when you're not feeling it, like, or when you think you need it, like, just hit somebody and I'll come get you. Well, the funny thing is like a couple games later, she hit a batter, and I looked at her, and she looked at me, and I was thinking to myself, oh crap, she took me serious. Like, and I was like, no, I was just joking. So, but yeah, so well, that's really interesting on that end. Let's talk about what sparked your initial interest in softball. Like, what made you get into it?
I think when you're 3 or 4, you don't really have a choice of anything. And I think my dad threw me to the wolves, and I played t-ball with the boys. And, it was just one of those things. I was like a PO in college. So obviously, guys, athleticism is not the high point here. But I got into it and I loved it. And, I really thought I was going to be a third baseman hitter. And then I started pitching, and I'm like, okay, I found my place here. And it was just one of those things, you just like can't get enough of it. And, if I was one of those kids, like if my team wasn't playing, can I go pick up with somebody and play? And, my sister now like loathes softball because she says her whole childhood she was spent at a ballpark.
Yeah, I know some kids like that.
Yeah. So now here we are, and the only time she gets to see me now is when we're at a ballpark or it's the summer. So
ESPN.
Yeah, ESPN, which is funny. But yeah, I just think, I started early and fell in love with the game and haven't looked back.
How about growing up in Alabama? Is that obviously that's got to create some sort of love of sports? Were you an Alabama football fan or a softball fan?
Yeah, I mean, literally, I think from the time I probably was born, I've been raised in an Alabama family. And it's ironic that my sister married an Auburn grad. So that was a hard convince with my dad, when he was like, hey, I want to marry her. And he was like, I don't know. You're a good dude, but that diploma on the wall is questionable.
That's funny. Interesting. So reflect a little bit on the time at Adelphi. Like how what are your best memories there? Like, what was it like? I looked up the school. It's a pretty campus. Like,
yeah, it's really pretty. I mean, I remember it was my only visit I took by myself. And I came back and I'm like, yeah, I'm committing. That's where I'm going. And my dad was like, yeah, no, you're not. I'm not sending my 19-year-old daughter to Long Island, New York. And I was like, no, I'm going. Like, I'm about to commit. Like, I'm just going to do it. And it was like, I think he went, which my dad and I talk on the daily a lot. I think he went probably 3 days and didn't speak to me when I told him I was committing, and I just did it without telling anybody. But luckily, it was a great decision. Paige Smith was a phenomenal recruiter. I went up there and I had the time of my life on a visit, and really it felt like home. Even though I was 19 hours from home and in a complete culture shock. So, but it was, we had the time of our lives. I mean, you get out done with practice and you go hop on the train, and the next thing you know, you're at Yankee Stadium for a 7:07 first pitch.
Oh man. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it was great, but besides that, they tell you like when you leave college, you don't remember, the giving up the home runs. You don't remember the losses. But winning, that first conference championship my senior year, that was phenomenal. Winning our first regional, going to a super, hosting supers for the first time there. That was, like those are great, but like the core memories of just like being 17 miles from New York City with some of your best friends is, a time like now in my 30s, I'm like, wow, I really did that. Like, that's why I try to tell every recruit, like, move away, go adventure out. Like, home is always going to be home, right? Go experience something new that you've never seen before. Because that was honestly the best thing I could have ever done for like younger me, was to get out and go experience life somewhere else.
That's cool. What did you ever go to Central Park and things like that?
Oh yeah, I mean it was nothing for us, just like pick up and like, hey, you want to go to Chinatown? Like, let's go. Like, anybody, at Christmas time, it was like awesome. We'd go and do the Central Park thing, and we'd go shop, and it was just one of those things that like you look back and you're like, wow, like it was nothing for us just to pick up and go to, the city that never sleeps.
Yeah. I went there, and I told the story a few times on my podcast, but I went there in like 2013 or 2012 when TCS did their event there, and down at Randall's Island. And that was one of the coolest experiences for somebody like me that's grown up in Arizona. And I mean, I can count I used to be able to count the buildings driving down the freeway in Arizona. There's quite a few more now, but going and actually seeing nothing but buildings as far as you can see in every direction, and not really being able to see the sky was really interesting for a guy like me. So every time now, like when I'm watching a movie or, there's anything, when I see landmarks or whatever, I'm like, man, I've been there. Like, kind of cool. So I know what you mean. What led you into coaching after playing and obviously loving the game? I mean, what got you going in that direction? What made you think that was something that you wanted to do full time?
It's ironic. I mean, I got my teaching degree. And so I was like, once softball was over, I was like, I don't want to coach. I was like heartbroken. Like, like my best friend had left me. I didn't want to coach. I just wanted to teach, 7 to 3 and go home. Like, I didn't want anything to do with softball. And then every interview I had for teaching, they're like, hey, would you, because I was a PE major. So, obviously your PE teachers usually have to coach something. So every interviewer was like, and are you interested in coaching? And it's like, the more I thought about it, I was like, yeah, maybe, but I was like, but I don't want to be the head coach. Well, ironically, alas, at 23 years old, they put me in charge of 25 children and I'm the head coach. So that's kind of, and then, you get the itch and you start doing it and you're like, wow, this is the life. Like, this is what I want to do.
What was the first like big thing that you realized being on the other side and trying to coach kids and get your message across?
I think it's all about the approach. Like, again, I was 23. I've really mellowed out in 10 years. I know some people may find that crazy, but I've really mellowed out. And I came in and I was just like hot, like this hothead, like get after it, get it done. Like, and then I finally had to realize like, hey, like chill out. Like you're a bit much. Like some of these kids are just playing to have a little fun. So I think that was like the first thing that was like, oh, I need to chill. And then once you get the kids to buy in and then they want it as bad as you do, then, it's a cool thing to see kind of evolve. And then you see their success and then you get invited to weddings and baby showers and then you become like part of that kid's life.
Yeah, I think that's the best part for me so far is just those connections. And I think I'm going to even probably start talking to more of my previous kids. I don't really do that on this podcast. I just try to keep it more like, separate from my organization, but I think it's kind of starting to blend together a little bit. But yeah. And so, what did you, have you got, obviously you were a pitching coach, or pitcher, and then you got your job as a high school coach. What were there other things about the game that you have taken a liking to outside of pitching?
I mean, when I was a head coach, I was having to do it all. And then I got my first, college coaching job at SUU with Don Williams and again, grateful for her who just, offered me a job off of, a recommendation from my old college coach. So it's kind of how your worlds collide. And I just remember getting there and she's like, hey, it's just us two. So we're going to have to find a way. So that's our first year there. She did the hitting in the infield and I did the pitching in the outfield. So I had to, it was one of those things like me, ironically, I don't have any depth perception. I think everything's a home run, right? So I'm like teaching a kid, I'm like, just drop, step and go. Like, just go catch a ball, set your feet and throw. But then the longer I was there, the more I'm like, I learned a little bit more about the outfield. I learned a little bit more about the hitting side. And so I think the most probably is hitting and outfield. I've had to learn a little bit more. I mean, I was an infielder growing up. I feel like the infield hadn't really changed over the years like everything else has.
But being a pitcher, like you can see batters and then so did like learning from someone like Don and hitting. Did you start putting those pieces together? Like, oh, well, this kid doesn't get there because of this, or that's why I can throw that kid in or out or up or down or whatever it may be.
Yeah, I learned a good bit from her. And then now being with Jen, who's like a hitting guru, has really helped me a ton, especially with like pitch calling, like what to look for. And then like we'll be in a game. She's like, did you see the hole? And I'm like, yep, I saw it. Which before I don't think I would have seen it. I just would have, been like, she's late, But now Jen does a really great job of like dissecting a swing and like not making it harder than it has to be.
One of the things I've over the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years that I've really learned is that like once you see that hole, don't out coach yourself and try to go, okay, I got one in that hole. I got a swing or a miss or a foul ball. Now I'm going to go throw the ball, a curveball, because it has to be different because I just threw that pitch. Now I throw that curveball. Well, crap, that's where her freaking bat goes. Like I'm gonna throw it right into her bat. So,
well, we were at Belmont last weekend, and I call a pitch because I'm like, I don't want to get predictable, and I call a pitch, and of course it like runs into her barrel, and we give up like we're in the 6th, and we're throwing a 1-hitter, and we give up our second hit. And Jen's like, what are you doing? I was like, I don't know. I don't want to get predictable. Just like, let them get themselves out. Just throw into it and let her get herself out. And so like after that, we were rolling and I'm like, great advice. Just let them get themselves out.
I think too, like I said, I think we have a tendency to overthink it. And like you said, get predictable. What is one thing that you guys, when you talk about seeing holes or looking at hitters, like what's one thing that you guys go, when we see a kid do this, we know we're going to be successful against that batter? Like, is there one move or, is there anything that a batter does that you guys see?
It's one of those, I guess it's different team to team, but like Jen and I look at, did you see her lock out her front leg? Yep. All right. Now I know I can get her on a change up. Like,
yep. Yeah.
Just little stuff like that.
Adjustability. Yep.
Yeah. We watch, films at our fingertips now more than ever. So everybody's got, 1,000+ pitches on a batter, but there's certain stuff on film that you see and then you get it in live situation and you're like, oh, there it is. Like, but in a different way.
Do you guys have synergy there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Synergy, cool. 643, the works.
Damn.
So there's like no excuse.
I want to see that. Like I've never been able to like look at it or get into it, but it would be really interesting to do.
Yeah. Sometimes like, I guess in the beginning of the year when we don't like downtime, I guess you would say, like sometimes you can get so deep into synergy, you're just like, and into 643 and the analytics side, you're like so deep, you don't even know where you're like, whoa, wait, how'd I get here?
Right. Huh. That's interesting. What else? What else are you learning there? What else defensively, offensively? Is there anything that's been like a little bit of an eye opener and you go, hey, I didn't realize we could do things like that, or anything you would look back and implement backwards, like to your own journey?
Right. No, there's so much that I would have implemented. That's what, I think having just like a technology aspect here, I'm like, dang, I wish I would have had that 5 years ago. It probably would have been a lot better pitching coach for those kids. Cause you like watch a pitch and you see it from the naked eye and you're like, yeah, that's a good pitch. And then you put it on a Rapsodo and you're like, oh, never mind. Your curveball's actually breaking back onto the plate. Whereas like with the naked eye, it looks like that's a great pitch. It clips a corner, and before I would have just, we're going to tunnel and we're going to thread the needle and we're going to hit a spot. But little did I know, like, that ball's probably actually moving back onto the plate. And now that's why we're getting hit. So there's a lot I wish I would have had 5 years ago, but that's on growth and learning and growing with the game.
How much do you guys use technology to train?
We use it a lot more in the fall. Like we'll go Rapsodo once or twice a week in the fall. And then now we'll break it out. Like my down ball kid, we came back from a preseason tournament, which preseason was rough. Let's just put it out there. You come back and you're 1-12 and your down ball kid's getting rocked. And I was like, what is going on? Like we went from getting missed hits and being like a lefty specialist to like, we're finding barrels. So we came back and we put her on Rapsodo. Well, come to find out her drop ball is spinning down, but it's spinning down and like back on the plate. So now we're throwing a drop ball away, but it's really cutting back middle. So, like you have that aspect and you can get it fixed, right? Like I know now where we're at and where we can fix it. So now we're only using it when we're needing to like tighten something up or fix something.
Right. So initial maybe evaluation and then, make adjustments and then you can see the results in the game, right? I mean, we can all see when we're getting miss hits and, timing was there, but the ball went straight backwards. That's a pretty good indication on a drop ball but what about like strings or, V-flex, anything like that?
Yeah, we use strings 2 or 3 times a week. We actually used them 2 days ago, but I just feel like I'm not a huge gadget person, but I'm into like, let's do the strings, let's work a spinner, let's do a little bit of tunneling. I feel bad for our catchers. They show up to bullpens and it's like, what does she have us doing today? And it's like, we've got like something down the middle. We've got a stand-in batter. We've got a string in front of us. And the catchers are like, this is terrible.
I know they hate those strings. Like catchers hate them.
They
and I'm like, it's just a little tiny string. They're like, yeah, well, you sit back there and try to catch it. It's still weird.
They're like, you sit back and try to catch 68 hitting off a string. Like,
right. I wish they would say that to me. I don't have that problem right now, but 68 with a string. Cool. What else? What does your day-to-day look like as far as, let's call it the fall, like, your pitchers for your staff, how are you working them day to day in the fall? And then how has that changed, during the regular season?
Yeah. So fall, we start off like day one. We're into, our 20 hours. So we're throwing, a pin every day. We got 6 days of practice. So we'll have 1 day off in the middle. And then 1 day will be like a mobility movement day. So they really won't throw. There won't be a pitch count there. It'll just be kind of like a plyo day. And then we try to work it like pitch count wise of building up because in the fall we do have those, 4 scrimmage days. And so we'll build up a pitch count. And I just have to, the older I get and the more I learn from people, I learn that, we've got to be careful of like not throwing 100 pitches every day. Where I feel like early in my career, it was like, okay, we're going to throw 10 screw balls. We're going to throw 10 drop balls. We're going to throw 10 change ups and we're going to write down every single one that we hit and miss. And now it's more of like, let's do quality of work, not quantity of work. Let's do like a high intensity something. And then it may only take us 35 minutes and we may have only thrown 45 pitches, but it was really intentional, high intensity work. So that's kind of our fall. It'll vary, like, do we play on Saturday or do we play on Sunday? Off day is going to be on Monday. What kind of, we work with our strength coach of what lifts are we doing? Cause they're lifting 3 days a week heavy in the fall. And then when we break down and get back into individuals, that's when we really get into like the technical, like the, where are we at, let's get on Rapsodo. Let's really break down what we saw in the fall. So like the individuals in the fall, I cherish those because like we get so much done in such a short amount of time those are really beneficial, especially I feel like now just being a pitching coach and the recruiting coordinator that I have so much more time to dedicate just to my pitchers, which is a great thing to do. And now that we're in season, they all are like, are we ever going to get a one-on-one bullpen again? And I'm like, guys, there's just not enough hours in the day. There's 5 of you and 1 of me. If you want to start bullpens at 7 a.m., we can all get an individual in.
Are you big on long toss?
Yeah, they're long toss. It's an off, like We had terrible weather. So we're actually off today. And then I gave them the option. I'm like, hey, does anybody want to throw a pin? Like, where are you at? And they're like, can we just go long toss? And I think in season, it's a great way just to get them moving without putting too much strain on anything else.
I think that was a great point you made earlier too, because we can all get locked in on like, we're going to throw the screwball and then, no pitcher's perfect, especially trying to like emulate that competitiveness where there's a batter and there's an umpire and there's fans and there's actually lines on the field and they got to go and try to hit a spot or make that ball move to a spot versus just it's a practice day and then they try like they're trying to like dig in and mentally prepare, but like it's not the same. So those screw balls or drop balls that they're throwing or rise balls they're throwing, they're not going to hit them all. Like I don't know, I wish I kind of could put a number on it, but it just seems like they miss more than they do in games in bullpens. It feels like to me, especially just on a regular practice day. And then all of a sudden you turn around and that bullpen is 100 pitches.
Right. You look down and you're like, oh crap, she threw 110 today and we got to turn around and play a game in 2 days. So yeah, up until probably about a couple years ago, that's when I really started like focusing on pitch count and like arm care. Because everybody just says your arm's in a natural movement. It should never hurt. And I'm like, okay, not true.
There's a lot of things against that. Do you follow Josh Johnson?
A little bit, yeah.
I get his email update, and that's some interesting stuff that he puts out there. It feels like it's too smart for me. So like I try to read it and trying to comprehend it. Like
I'm the same way. I read it and I'm like, I don't even know what that word means, and I really don't know how to even pronounce that one. So these people writing this are a lot smarter than I am. Can somebody interpret it and then dumb it down to me?
I think I need to just put it in Chat GPT and ask for a dumb summary.
Yeah.
No, as a matter of
exactly.
fact, I've asked him. I actually sent him an email recently to see if I can get him on. I'd love to like I just said, I'd love to dumb it down and like explain it to a lot more. But yeah, that natural arm motion thing seems to be a little bit misleading. So that'll be kind of interesting. What let's talk a little bit about your staff. How do you approach, like, what's your ideal pitching staff at the college level? How big are you on like one time through, or is it more of a feel thing, or what's your plan as it pertains to building a staff and then going and trying to win games?
Yeah, so it's funny. I took the job here in July in the middle of that wonderful Colorado tournament that's forever long, and I took the job and Jen calls and was like, oh, and by the way, you have 3 freshman arms, 1 sophomore arm, and hopefully you can lock down this transfer portal kid that we're working on. And I'm like, okay, great. No pressure. Here we go. So, in the fall, getting those 3 freshmen like ready was a full-time job. But now here we are. And I think to attribute to Jen, she's done a great job of teaching me that, the day and age, I think, of the one horse throwing all 7 innings are long gone. It's not happening. It's just not. So it goes back to like, let's look at a matchup situation. Let's see where we're at. And then, let's start, I'll start one of my freshman kids that'll probably see, and she knows like, hey, your goal is to get 12 outs. You get 12 outs, we can bring in somebody else. And now she only has to go 4, because, Mackenzie, our senior, she can't go 7 anymore, right? Like she's done this for 4 years. She's thrown 200 plus innings every year of her career. And, I'm sure if I made her go, she would, but it's one of those things like she doesn't have to. So why would she? So we just, pieced it together, with the 3 freshmen that we have, and you start them and you let them go. They're 12. And if you look down and we've got 12 outs and we haven't given up a hit yet, okay, well, now let's see, can we go 13? And then after that, it's just like batter to batter. And then you have your long closer ready to go. So we played Missouri State a few weeks ago for a midweek, and I looked down and I'm like, oh, dang, like my 12 out kid's now gone 16. And I'm like, oh, shoot, like now I can just send Mac in for 1 inning and let's call it a day. And those are the days that you look down and you're like, dang, we did a really good job managing the bullpen today. And then there's other days that you try to do that, and like the kid only throws, your 9 out kid is only thrown for 3 outs. And then you look down and it's the 4th inning and I'm on my 4th arm. So it's just piecing it together. I think, you got to look at matchups. You got to have a kid that changes speeds. I'm a firm believer in that now. And we got to change speeds. We got to change planes. So I think piecing it together with the staff has been really the key this year of, keeping us in it, because our hitters are going to hit. We've just got to keep it reasonable and keep, we can't spot them 4 in the first.
Right. With your young pitchers, when you were trying to like get them up to speed and try to like build confidence in them, were you big on like small successes? Like you said, maybe it wasn't 12 outs, maybe it was 6, or maybe it was 3.
Oh yeah. I mean, you've got 3 freshmen and you're opening up at Auburn. And it's the Malvo era. So they're just like,
how fun is that?
They're amped up because it's the Malvos are taking over a program and they're about to turn it around. And I look, and the stands are packed.
They might know a little about hitting.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So then you throw your little freshman out there and she comes off the field. I'm like, well, were you nervous? And she's like, yeah, but I think I'm good now. And I'm like, yeah, well, you just keep throwing because, change speeds. I was like, it's going to be like this. And like, you can't simulate that, right? Like you try to get them prepared as much as you can until they go out there and do it. It's just, I'm like, are you nervous? Like, were you nervous? No, I don't think I was nervous. And then she says, yeah, I think I was nervous. And I was like, yeah, I mean, like, that's part of the game. Like if you weren't nervous, I probably would have been concerned.
Right. Right.
No. So I think it's just that, I think that's what's prepared those young arms for conference play is we threw them to the Wolves in preseason. You go to Auburn, you go to Mississippi State. And I think, we had the 18th toughest schedule in the country for preseason.
Saw that.
So yeah, you throw them out there and then now it's like, it's nothing. It's just like, all right, like I'm getting the start and I'm going to get my job done. And, and that's the good thing about the 5 of them is they're really like, they've bought into like the staff mentality and they're each other's biggest fans, which is phenomenal. And it's kind of happened organically. We haven't had to force it. They're all just like a really tight knit group and they know like, hey, my job is to do this. And when you come in, your job is to do that. And if I don't get my job done, I hope you have my back.
Absolutely. I always have people, not as much coaches, like college coaches, but like another travel ball coach or whoever. And they'll be like, hey, well, who's your number 1? I'm like, whoever has the ball. Like, that's my number 1. Whoever has the ball right now is the 1. And then the 2 is the one that's going behind her. And it changes every game, every week. And so,
and I'm like, we're dealing with like girls. It's day to day. It is minute by minute.
Love that. You mentioned Colorado being in Colorado. What are your thoughts on that event? Are you guys still going there for the full 10 days ish?
Yeah, I don't think we're going for a full 10. I was actually looking at that earlier in the week and I'm like, I can't look at this. It's overwhelming. No, because they play so many freaking games. And then on top of that, like there's a camp a day there and they've thrown in that like, was the P5 at the beginning?
Well, it's Patriot P5, yeah.
Yeah, the Patriot P5. I don't know if they've combined or what, but
they have.
So you've got that at the beginning. That's an uber competitive tournament. And then let's throw in camps all day, Sunday, Monday. And then let's throw in like another 7 days of softball. And I'm like, these kids are dead tired by the end of the week. And I'm like, can we all just get together and say, hey, everybody, we're going to do it for 5 days. We're just going to play really competitive games. Can we put some scores on a scoreboard? And like, let's just go be competitive for five days and just grind it out. And then let's give some kids some time off before nationals.
Yeah, I'm not going to Patriot this year. I got invited the first 2 years and realized I wasn't invited this year. And so that's going to be a little bit of an adjustment for me. But I will 100% say that is a great event. And I will hope to be back a part of it next year. But it is a long 10 days for my teams. And I saw it start to kind of eat away a little bit. Because here's the thing too, like, okay, go take 20, but like, there's not a lot of programs that can carry 20 and keep all 20 of those happy. So for me, it's a tough deal, and it's still a lot of money now for 20. So, yes. To me, yeah, I think, those guys they'll figure it out and they'll do the right things and they'll figure out what's worked and what doesn't work. And I've kind of brought this up to a few people, or I shouldn't say it's been brought up to me. And since I talked to so many people, I asked the question. And I don't know if everybody's going to like that, but I will continue to do it because at the end of the day, we got to keep doing it what's good for the kids. And everybody wants to talk about, oh, well, we play too much. We don't practice enough. We got to give kids time off. I'm all about that, but like it's hard to when you're still all trying to fight for, your piece or your putting your program back together or your team back together because you graduated kids. And you gotta keep going out there. So I don't know. We'll find the best fit, I think. But what is your recruiting look like? I mean, we talked a little bit about it, but like as far as getting kids to Southern Illinois, like what do you guys look for? I gotta think Arizona kids would be, a West Coast kid, right? Would be kind of sought after for your side of the country. What do you guys look for, and how can I help you kind of get? I know you're into the Arizona market, but like how can I help you a little bit more?
Yeah, I think just keeping open lines of communication. That's what I was scared of. I was like, oh gosh, like I've built all these contacts on the West Coast. I'm going to move and I'm going to lose them. So I think just when you get a kid, it's just plugging them. Just plug the kid, because we've picked up a couple kids that are just like, hey, so-and-so is really interested in your program. And I was like, oh crap, I didn't think I even had a shot at that kid. That's great to know. Like, thanks for the plug. And then you talk to the kid, you build a connection. And then next thing you know, they're committed to you and on your team. And I mean, a lot of our girls are from that Midwest area. And then we've got a couple that are from Texas. And then we've got two coming in we've got one currently from California and then another one coming in. So we're kind of like coast to coast. And then we've got a 26 from Fort Myers, Florida. So we're everywhere. I mean, I don't want to say that we just recruit one region. Cause I feel like now the sport's blown up everywhere. And it's huge everywhere, which is great. So I think it's just like plug a kid, any chance you can. And when we get to watch that kid, like let her ball out and I'm on a fine line of like, I wish sometimes coaches would say, hey, so-and-so's here to watch you. And then it's like, well, is that added pressure for the kid? Can they handle the pressure?
They got to know. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, so, ball out when you get the chance and keep plugging kids.
Well, here's a funny thing. Like, you guys want to see kids under pressure. That's why you're there. Otherwise, you guys would come like in a fake glasses and a mustache, right? Like, you guys would be in a disguise, right? But so you're standing behind the backstop, or you're at the game, you're in your gear. They know you're there. They know that they've had interest, and then a little more out of pressure. Yes, they're here to see you. They came to see you. It's good for them to know that that somebody is watching them. It's good for them to have that pressure. And then you and I both know if so-and-so goes out there and gives up a couple bombs and has to get pulled in 2 innings, you know what that's like. You've been there. So now you might come back even more so next time to just see how that kid responds.
How's she going to react? Was it a bad day? I always tell pitchers when I'm recruiting, I'm like, I want to see you on a really good day. I want to see you on a really bad day. And I want to see you on a not like a kind of your mid day. Cause like, how do you react in all three of those situations? And like, you want to see me when I'm bad? I'm like, heck yeah, I want to see you when you're bad. Cause I want to know, are you throwing a helmet? Are you blaming somebody? Are you pouting in a dugout? Like, what are you doing? So I think that's always helpful. I want to see you at your good, your bad, and your worst. So
right. No, that's good stuff. Are you going to be at Alliance or PGF?
I think we're going to divide it up. I'm going to go both. I'm going to go first half PGF, and then I think Alliance gives us. I think we got like a 2-day window, and then we'll fly over to Alliance, which now it's in Indiana, so it's in our backyard, which is great.
What about Top Gun? Do you guys go in there?
Yeah, we'll be at Top Gun.
Cool.
Colorado, and then both nationals.
Cool.
So and then may squeeze another small one in, just depending on what's going on. May drive down to Atlanta and do the Legacy one there. It's just you're always fighting rain that weekend. I don't know if you've ever gone to the Legacy tournament, but
I've never been there. I went to I forget what it used to be called. It was in Florida. But I went there like 3 years, and in those 3 years, I think I played like 6 games.
Yeah. So it's
It
like
was in
hit
the
or miss. I'm like,
fall. Yeah.
yeah. And then you're dealing with Atlanta traffic. So I'm like, oh my gosh, like I gotta watch this kid here at 1 o'clock, but then I gotta go all the way across town and watch another kid at 3.
I've been to TCS a couple times out there. I had a great time. I mean, I've been there multiple times. Yeah, funny story is I was down there and I had a pretty good team that year, and we were kind of rolling along, and we had this team this one evening, and it was still bracket play. We're undefeated, and I was like, I don't know who this Georgia Impact team is, but I've never heard of them. But we're pretty good, and I look up and it's 12-0 after 3 innings. And I'm like, what the hell? But the funniest part about that is 3.5 hours later, I got Haley Denning thrown out in an inside the park home run for the tying run. So like it was that was probably the most fun I've ever had. It had like Charlotte Eccles and what's her name, the pitcher? Oh gosh, she was at Washington. Oh gosh.
Ruby May. Well, she's not
No,
watching
not
anymore.
Malin. This was in like 2013 or 14.
Oh gosh,
No.
that's back in my day.
No, it had to be 18. 18. Oh gosh, I would know if I heard. Anyway, that's when Jeff Cottrell was there. His daughter Julie was on the team. He was helping coach that team. Oh my God, I can't believe I don't remember her name. Anyway, she was a really, really good pitcher at Washington. She played some first base, and I think she might have transferred for her final year. But
Oh, Lynch.
Yeah, Kelly Lynch.
Yeah. Kelly Lynch.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was that team, and what a great game. But yeah, Jeff and I laugh about that. I told him that was the greatest game I ever been a part of. So even though we lost, but yeah. So looking ahead, what's your goals? Like what career wise? I mean, are you looking to be a head coach someday or?
Yeah, I think one day, I keep saying when I'm older and I'm like getting older and I'm like, oh God, I'm still the fun one. It's kind of fun being the fun one.
50. I'm 52. Like I don't feel old at all, except after like a night of throwing BP. Like I feel my arm hurts a little bit, but like I tell all these girls like 50 is like 0 old. Like
I know. I think I struggled when I first turned 30 and I was like depressed about it. And now I'm like, my 30s are phenomenal. Like, let's just live it up. I mean,
yeah.
So yeah, I think eventually I would love to take over a program. Right now, I'm loving being the assistant, the pitching coach, and I was the associate head coach before. So, I'm just kind of like living in the moment of where I'm at now. And if something opens up, maybe. And yeah, eventually.
Well, it's interesting. There's some like entrepreneurial guys that I watch YouTube channels and things like that. And they talk about like being an entrepreneur versus an intrapreneur, which is like you're the man, you run the business, you're the founder or whatever. And then also, there's a lot of guys that can be that. And then there's some that are the intrapreneur, which are like the number 2 or the 3. And that's where they really succeed. And that's where they really do well. But you don't know, I guess, until you try, right? Or you don't know until you know. Yeah, that's something interesting. I think, obviously, you're going to be around a long time, and I'm really excited to have you on today. Is there anything else that you'd like to get out there to the audience when in regards to softball or anything?
I don't know. That was a tough one.
Any wise words? Or is that even tougher?
That's probably tougher. I don't know. I do feel like a lot of these kids put themselves in a box, like recruiting, like mom and dad tell them what they want to be and what they want to major in and where they want to go to school. And it's hard to tell mom and dad no, but at the end of the day, like you got to do what's best for you and don't limit yourself. Like go out, adventure out,
Be uncomfortable. See what you're about.
Yeah. You're not going to grow unless you're uncomfortable. And I know I've learned that the hard way, but here we are.
No, you're doing great things. And like I said, I always appreciate your support and our friendship and things like that over the years coming around. And I've got some other ones coming so that you're going to want to see. So I'll make sure I give them a shout out.
I know. I found there was a bunch I liked and they're like, oh, we want to stay on this side of the country. I'm like, dang it.
Yeah. Well, we'll see because you can only stay where there's openings, right? And we gotta get that figured out. But I'm excited for them. So. All right, I just want to say thanks for listening. We will continue working to elevate the sport and get caught up with those who are influential in the fast pitch community, and hopefully we can help you navigate your softball journey. If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. caught up with Randy Kaye using handle at Coach KAZ. You can listen to the audio version of this podcast on Google, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you consume your favorite content. Finally, please follow us on X and Instagram using the same handles at Coach KAZ. Thanks again for listening.
This one's for my wife. Could have left 1,000 times just about my side.